She keeps finding profiles I would never say yes to, so I stopped telling her. That was not said to me by a teenager. That was a man in his late 20s, a software engineer, living in Austin. He had been searching for a match for 4 months, on his own, in silence, because it was easier than explaining why his mother's list did not fit. Parents, this is what helping looks like. Not the version you grew up watching, not the way your own parents ran this, not the way your sister handled it with her kids. This version, the one that works in 2026, with your adult child in the life they are actually living. Here is what I know from talking to hundreds of families since I started building VivaahReady. The parents who push hardest are usually the ones whose children go quietest, and the parents who back off completely, out of hurt or frustration, their children are often struggling alone, quietly wishing someone would ask the right question. The middle path is the hardest one, and I want to talk today about what that path actually looks like, not in theory, in practice. Specific behaviors, real stories, and a few things nobody is going to say to you at a family dinner, but that need to be said. My name is Lakshmi. I am the founder of VivaahReady, and I am also a Bay Area mom. I built this platform because I watched families I love fight about information when they should have been working together, and I want to change that. Let's get into it. Let me give you some numbers that should reframe this conversation completely. A Carnegie Endowment for International Peace survey of 1,200 Indian Americans conducted in 2020 found that 94% of first-generation Indian Americans are in stably married households. 94%. That is an extraordinary number. It tells you something important. Family involvement in the matchmaking process, done well, works. The family model is not the problem. But here is the part that makes this more complicated. The same survey found that 40% of US-born Indian Americans married someone born in India. Think about what that means in practice. Almost half of second-generation Indian Americans are navigating not just a match, but a cross-cultural coordination. Families with different expectations about process, about communication, about how much of this conversation happens at the dinner table versus in private. And according to Pew Research Center, there are 1.5 million Indian Americans in the United States, median household income above $150,000. 75% hold a college degree. This is not a community that does not know how to make careful decisions. Your adult child is not lost. They are not passive. They have criteria, often very specific criteria. A 2025 industry report found that 77% of profiles on major matrimony platforms are self-managed, typically by a parent or family member rather than the person seeking a match. 77%, which means in most cases, the person browsing the profiles is not the person the profile is about. The person doing the filtering is applying their own preferences, their own priorities, their own sense of what a good match looks like, even with the best of intentions, even with love. That is the data. What it tells us is that family involvement is common, often the norm, and that the way it is currently structured, on most platforms, creates a fundamental gap between who is searching and who the profile represents. The conflict this generates is not a personality conflict, it is a structural one, and structural problems have structural solutions. She called me on a Sunday afternoon from her kitchen in Fremont. I could hear the chai brewing in the background. She had a printed list in front of her, 12 profiles she had researched and organized over 2 weeks. She had cross-referenced community connections. She had looked up educational backgrounds, family histories. She had done everything she knew how to do. Her son Vivek, in his late 20s, a software engineer in Austin, had not looked at a single one. When she finally brought it up directly, the conversation, the one she had been delaying for weeks, she found out that Vivek had been searching on his own for 4 months, on completely different criteria. Location flexibility was his number one requirement. He was open to someone who had grown up outside major metro areas, which was the opposite of what she had been filtering for. He wanted someone who had built an independent career. His family background requirements were looser than hers. His deal-breaker list was long, detailed, and she had never seen it. She was not angry at him. She was hurt. Why wouldn't he tell me, was the question she kept coming back to. And Vivek's answer when I finally spoke to him separately was honest. He had not told her because every time he explained why a profile did not work, she thought he was being too picky. She thought he was finding reasons to say no. So he stopped explaining. And eventually